You ever had to sleep with your landlord because you were desperately behind on your rent? I really hope not, but somehow Miyako Miyahara was able to take this ethically questionable porn cliche and turn it into a cute lesbian comedy manga called I Can't Believe I Slept With You. Kotaka Chio is a self-pitying 24-year-old who quits her job and ends up 3 months behind on her rent. Then one night, during what she calls an escapist bender, she's visited by her landlady who offers to help her with her rent if she does her a favor. Smash cut to the next day, and Kotaka wakes up next to a naked woman 5 years younger than her. Hit with an instant sense of confusion and regret, Kotaka realizes she not only had a drunken one-night stand, but it was with a woman. And to top it off, the landlady says she'll reduce Kotaka's rent if she does her more favors. Somewhat reluctant of the vague definition of favors, Kotaka agrees to the plan, and so begins their romantic slice-of-life days exploring their true feelings. The adorable art style and comedic expressions give a very playful tone right off the bat. In fact, despite its lewd cover and the title being I Can't Believe I Slept With You, you'll notice there's not actually an explicit content tag anywhere on this. That's because this is actually just a pretty wholesome story. It just stems from a one-night stand which the main character can't even remember. Kotaka is a nerdy ex-game developer that's easily embarrassed and prone to fits of self-doubt, traits that mesh well together with her lighthearted expressions in both comedic and romantic styles. What's more alarming to her than the overdue rent is the fact that she's straight. So, needless to say, living with a teasing lesbian she barely knows is a bit awkward at first. And that young lesbian is her landlady, whose real name is Ritsuka Hara, although that name is only really used in their most intimate moments together. As you grow to know her as a reader, you find out she's very affectionate, but she's just not the best at outwardly showing it like Kotaka is. So she comes off as a little cold at first, but she's also very dependable, which makes sense given that she's managing housing units at just 19 years old somehow. And as the story progresses, you go to love her bashful and reserved nature, especially when you get to see the cute times where her emotional side more comes out. Since Kotaka is out of a job and Ritsuka can handle most of her work remotely, most of the story takes place in their apartment together. There are a few dates they go on together, and eventually Kotaka starts to look for a new job, but Ritsuka isn't really developed as much as her own independent character. She mostly stays home and does all the cooking, cleaning, and still manages the housing units from her laptop. This makes Ritsuka feel like her life already revolves around this sudden relationship she has with Kotaka, and at times you feel like there's some kind of troubled past that might be haunting her, which we don't really explore. In the context of their growing romance together, it can be a bit difficult to understand why they become closer when they still barely know each other, but maybe this is something that's more just something the reader doesn't really get to know, but Kotaka herself does, as that's something that the author kind of hints at in one of the afterwords. The serious moments in the narrative itself are focused on Kotaka's struggles with her sexuality. At first, she can't even fathom being gay, but by volume 2, she's crushing harder than ever on Ritsuka, and starts to ask herself what it means to actually be in love with a woman. The core theme of I Can't Believe I Slept With You is all about regret. First, you have a single mistake that causes Kotaka her dream job, then you get the drunken one-night stand that kicks off the plot, and the memory-fogged Kotaka is conflicted about her feelings over the night, but Ritsuka also secretly regrets hooking up with her before actually getting to know her first. And as they live together, Kotaka starts to feel guilty about how useless she feels around the house. Meanwhile, Ritsuko is trying to help Kotaka get her life back together, but she's a bit concerned that maybe she might be overstepping her boundary in some respects. The author tackles this theme of regret by showing how these moments can be used as fuel for personal growth. As much as Ritsuka teases Kotaka about their favor system, she doesn't just want to have sex with her. She wants to develop a meaningful relationship with somebody despite her seemingly uncaring attitude. So her regret over the night actually becomes her way of finding out what she truly wants in life. And for Kotaka, she comes to discover that she's actually interested in girls, but she's just never really even considered it before due to social conditioning. And as she consults several people on advice for how to date a woman, she comes to realize it's not that different from dating a man. You see how compatible you are, you learn about each other's interests, and you take care of each other. And you want to be able to do things for your special sweetie, as one of the characters puts it, and that's kind of really something that doesn't really need a gender attached to it, really. It's just doing nice things for the person you care about. So there's not too much of a difference involved with the two. And it's through all these self-discoveries that every character learns to overcome their regret and better themselves. When it comes to art, this series checks all my boxes for what I'm into for adult women characters and emotional expressions. Kotaka is this glasses-wearing, outgoing yet hopeless nerd who you can't help but love. And Ritsuka has this young tomboy-like aesthetic where she mostly hangs around in oversized hoodies with a serious expression on her face and acts tougher than she actually is. Both are charming in their own respects and they play off each other really well. But since the story didn't immediately show us the one-night stand, I theorized for most of the time reading it that maybe it didn't actually happen at all. Maybe the landlady was just teasing her over something that didn't actually happen just because she couldn't remember. In fact, I'm led to believe that was probably the author's initial plan based on some ways that things are phrased and done in the plot, but then the series had to abruptly end, so maybe they just ended up getting rid of that idea. Turns out they did sleep together, but there were some other factors involved with that night that make it seem a lot less sketchy than the initial premise makes it out to be. But I have to admit, it is kind of hard to ignore the problematic nature of that premise. If I go up to a friend, hey, check out this Yuri manga, it's about a girl who's behind on her rent, so she goes to her landlady and does her favors. You know, I'm gonna have to put 20 qualifiers on that before I can actually sell a lot of people on it, unless that person I'm recommending it to is a man of culture who doesn't give a shit, I guess. It doesn't detract for the plot much with how it's presented, but it makes it somewhat challenging to publicly recommend this to a lot of people. What starts as a regrettable encounter soon evolves into an incentive program for two adorable girls. It's an enjoyable time all around with a lot of heartwarming moments sprinkled in. The real unfortunate aspect of the series is that the author clearly didn't have enough time to tell the full narrative that they wanted to. They definitely had a bunch of backstories for both of these characters and some more side information for some other characters that they wanted to develop, and they just didn't really get the chance because it sounded like they were suddenly told you only get 3 volumes to tell it, and that's kind of where you get Kotaka realizing that she's falling in love with Ritsuka at almost neck break speed by volume 2, even though to the reader it doesn't feel like they've come to personally know each other too much. She doesn't even know her full name until the end of the first volume, but the author still finds some time for a few romantic Christmas chapters together. And you guys know me, that's my kind of stuff, I'm always there for that. All 3 volumes of I Can't Believe I Slept With You are available now through 7 Seas Entertainment. You can get it on Amazon, and I'll leave links to all that in the description down below. Check it out if you get a chance, and if you do, leave a comment and let me know what your thoughts were. I'd love to hear what you think. And while you're down there, why not hit the subscribe button and check out some of the other social media links while you're there. You got my Twitter, where I give all the best takes, and then you got my Discord, where we watch anime together. It's always a good time. That's all for now. Stay safe, gamers, and I'll talk to you all later.